it's very exciting. I'm just writing my Dear Santa Trump list. Take care of the border, justice reform, Elon cuts, Maha, tax cuts. I'll take it 15% corporate, but can we start with 0 with tariffs? Deep cuts in regulations, Department of Ed, close it down, Pentagon, stop the madness. That's all I've got so far, but it's going to be a long list. I'm going to send to Santa Trump. If you have any suggestions, I'd love to hear it. One of the things I know he's going to do is probably give, a great gift to anybody who has Bitcoin or anybody who's in the Bitcoin industry, because he has said he is against the Fed coin, and he, in his administration, will stop that from ever becoming a reality. I hope he can pull that one off. But gold is up still. It's down, $30 from Election Day, but it's still doing well. I think 2,700. It was just coming off of all-time high yesterday. All-time high for Bitcoin. That's come down just a little bit, but the economy could roar. And we have Carol Roth with us now. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Glenn. We promised people that we would get together and have something good to talk about at some point in time. So we manifested this discussion, and we have optimism. Yeah. And I think that's actually my most exciting point, is the optimism. It could be 4.5 years since we've had real optimism in this country, from the time of the COVID mess through the Biden-Harris administration. Yeah. And sentiment is such a self-fulfilling prophecy, particularly for the economy, but in all aspects of life. So the fact that we have this huge sense of relief is lifted off our shoulders, not to say that there's an easy road ahead, but just to have the optimism that, yes, we can go out and do this. Is such a blessed day and week.
Amen on that. So the stock market, you sent me something, maybe 6 o'clock on Tuesday night, and you said, Glenn, stock market is up 200 points. That bodes well for Trump. And then it just kept going up. The after hours stock market just kept going up all throughout the night, and it's doing well. They didn't usually they will bake in what they think is coming. They really thought a Kamala administration was coming, didn't they?
No, they actually had baked in a Trump win. So that's why this was so staggering. I think what they didn't have baked in is what a resounding mandate that he would have. The fact that he would have the Senate, the fact that he'd win the popular vote. Obviously we're still waiting, but hopefully the House. The fact that this was the country saying, we want this mandate. And CNBC said this morning that we are on track for the best week in the stock market in a year. And what is most exciting about what's happened in the market is that it has been a very broad raise. We've been through a time over the past several years where just a handful of tech companies, they're the ones who've been lifting the markets. The Russell 2000, which is the smaller cap publicly traded companies, they were up 5% the day after the election, 5% in one day, which means small companies and medium-sized companies think that they're going to get access to capital and have the optimism to grow their business. And we know we need that broad-based growth, not just a handful of companies. So that was really one of my big takeaways.
I mean, if I were somebody that wanted to start my own business, I would be planning on it right now. I mean, I think America has a chance to have another golden era here. And, maybe they put a stop to it in 4 years, but if he can turn this thing around quickly and actually make the kinds of moves that he's talking about, massive fundamental change in the garbage of the bureaucracy, that could affect us for a very long time. And you could also see, with that kind of success, 12 years, not just him, but then two terms of J.D. Vance.
Absolutely. And I think for small businesses in particular, the people who are looking to start them or grow an existing business, there were three key areas that the Biden Harris administration really tamped down on that sort of optimism from the backbone of the economy. The first one being the ability to work flexibly. The Trump administration had put this very pro independent contractor, pro gig work framework in place, and they reversed that in its entirety. So the fact that goes away is huge. From a regulatory standpoint, $1.7 trillion in regulatory burden is the estimate of the Biden-Harris administration on small business alone. Small businesses don't have time for this, and they don't have the staff or the money for this. So the fact that we know we're going to get more of that regulation cleaned out is absolutely huge. And then the tax uncertainty. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is set to expire next year in large part. And the fact that, we know that Trump is going to be, more open to, extending some of those cuts and maybe even further cutting and hopefully helping small businesses have that certainty, because you can't make those investments if you're not sure what's going to happen. Plus, we know we're not going to get the crazy capital gains taxes and the wealth taxes and all those other things that are proposed. So this is really a three-legged stool that will help to unleash growth. And it is, it is such a blessing.
So let's go over some of the things that he has to do. He's obviously going to fix the border and deport people. I can't take it anymore. This is the largest deportation in U.S. history. Well, I didn't even know that the largest deportation happened under Bill Clinton, with 11 million people deported from our country. 11 million. Nobody said boo about that. Our population is bigger. And what is he talking about? Maybe 10 to 15 million, maybe 20. This is ridiculous that everybody's freaking out when Bill Clinton was the guy who did it the first time, and it didn't hurt anything.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a mass invasion, and while something like mass deportations may sound like just a security or a social policy, it's obviously very much an economic policy. The estimate from FAIR, just in 2023 alone, so forget about this year, was $150 billion that was spent on these illegals. And that doesn't include things like what it does to the demoralization of communities, what it does to keep wages suppressed and people on the sidelines. Back in 2022, the 2022 estimate for the number of illegals in the workforce was 8.3 million. You could imagine that that's up at least 50%, if not more. So those are jobs that are having artificially suppressed wages and being taken away and demoralizing, working age individuals, particularly men, from getting into the workforce. So this is a huge financial issue for us. And whatever the cost is to get them out of the country will be worth it, because the return on investment for doing that in all facets will far exceed it. It absolutely has to be the first thing that he does.
We know that he's also going to, one of the first things he's going to do on the first day is restore our energy policy, drill, baby, drill, and open up all of that stuff again, thank God. The ESG, I just got a note from somebody that said, one investment bank is advising ESG fund managers to keep their lawyers very close. Antitrust risk remains high for asset managers in ESG. There haven't been any cases yet, thus there's no legal precedent. Further, legal risks regarding fiduciary duty will stay relevant as states enforce antitrust ESG laws. ESG, do you see the stake going through its heart?
I mean, we certainly hope so. The challenge with something like ESG is they always repackage it and it comes back to life as something else. It's kind of like the vampire who shapeshifts into something different. So my guess is that ESG, as known as ESG, goes away, and then they come back and they concoct something else, and now it has a new name. So it is a bit of a whack-a-mole. We're going to have to continue to be on it. But I absolutely think that there's already a huge push to get away from it, in part because everybody is seeing all these promises. Oh, ESG is going to do all these wonderful things for investments. That hasn't materialized, and it really has been this greenwashing. So I feel like it's already on that trend, and this could be the final nail in the vampire's coffin until he rises again.
So the COP25 is coming up. And the last time that he attended, or the first time I don't even know if he attended, he might have just sent a note, we're out of the Paris Accords and everything else. That too is going to shake the global community and really it could take it down. If he is really strong on this, World Economic Forum garbage that has been shoveled, if he's really strong on that, he could put the stake in its heart.
You get the right government efficiency commission, and we should be out of everything. We should stop funding the WEF. We should stop funding the UN. We should stop funding all of this insanity and take that money and make that available to pay down our debt and to shrink our deficits, and to stop with these NGOs who are getting massive funding from us and then coming in and trying to ruin our lives. So when you add your list to Trump Santa, please include getting rid of all of the funding to these ridiculous organizations.
Well, I think that goes kind of under the border thing, because that's where we've really enriched these NGOs here in the country. I mean, some of them should go to jail. They brought these people in over the border with our tax money. They flew them around the country with our tax money. I mean, I think there should be at least an investigation on that.
I'm with you. I second you on that one.
When it comes to taxes, what do you think about the idea? You would need to actually do both of them together. I'm not a tariff guy, but if your goal is to rebuild America and to rebuild our manufacturing and bring money back onto shore and jobs back onto shore, if you cut, like he was talking about, no income tax, if you cut the income tax and reimpose stiff tariffs, what happens?
So I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings in math here, but the math doesn't really work out, because you have to remember 70% of our economy is service-based. And even if you boost up manufacturing on a big level, the amount that it would take to replace what we have in terms of an income tax, it just today is not mathematically possible. We also have this scenario where we're trying to make sure that the GDP increases and that our revenue stays, pretty stable at the same time that we're trying to get rid of the additional spending. And that is going to be a very delicate dance. So I think this is something that needs to be managed strategically.
Could you come up with a flat tax or a 15% tax?
Sure.
That just makes the economy roar?
I absolutely do think that you can do that, and something that is simple also takes away a lot of the administration and the burden that comes along with that. That makes just takes away productive time from people. You're spending it on paperwork instead of spending it out in the economy. So I do think there could be something that is streamlined, but again, the tax code is so insane. I imagine that will take some time, but would completely welcome it. And there are so many entrepreneurial people who are around Trump this time around, the Elon Musks and the Viveks and whatnot. I think this is the time where there's an opportunity to actually get something like this done. And we need that, Glenn. We need to have the growth, because if we don't have the massive growth, we're not going to be able to shrink the government. We're not going to be able to do these things without unleashing massive inflation. So that's the dance that we have.